Hi everyone, today we're going to be using the sine rule to find an angle. Okay, so I've got a triangle here and it's not a right angle triangle, that's why we're using the sine rule. And we're trying to work out this angle of y. So first step would be to label our points. Now this y is already labeled as a y, but for the purpose of the sine rule we like to use capital A's, capital B's, lowercase b's, and the same for C's. So starting at this y, because that's the point of interest, I'm going to label that as a capital A. And remember, two things are important here. So the angles you're labeling with capital letters, and the side lengths you're labeling as lowercase letters, and the angle and the side length are both linked. So if that angle there is a capital A, then the 20 is going to be a lowercase a. This 30 degrees, we can call that as an uppercase B. That means that the 12 over here is going to be a lowercase b. Okay, now let's write our sine rule. So we're trying to find an angle, so we're going to use the sine rule variation that has the angle on top. I've got another video on that explains that in a bit more detail. But just writing our sine rule, we've got sine A divided by A equals sine B divided by lowercase b equals sine C divided by C, but we don't need to write that. We're just interested in A's and B's. Now let's input in some values. So sine of A, well, A over here was really a y, so let's write y. So I've got sine of y divided by lowercase a, which was 20, equals sine of B, which is 30 degrees, so sine 30 degrees, divided by lowercase b, which was 12. Okay, we're trying to get y by itself. So if we look on the left-hand side of the equation, let's do something about this divide by 20. If we multiply both sides by 20, we can simplify this left-hand side. So the left-hand side, we're going to be left with sine of y equals 20 times, and I'll write this in brackets, 20 times sine 30 over 12. So sine 30 over 12. Okay, now you could be tempted to try and get a number for this already on the right hand side, but we've still got one more step. So I personally prefer to deal with this sine on the left hand side of the equation first, and then I only need to put everything in my calculator once. You could find a number for the right hand side already and then use your calculator's answer button to regenerate that answer. For right now, let's focus again on this left hand side. We've got sine of y. Well, that's not much help because our original question was we wanted y just by itself. So if we're trying to kind of essentially get rid of this sine, we need to do the inverse of that. So the inverse of sine is literally just called the inverse of sine. And what that looks like on your calculator, you would need to do shift and then the sine button. If we're writing it, we would write sine -1. So on the left-hand side, we're left with y equals sine -1. So remember that would be shift sine of everything that was already on the right-hand side of the equation. Okay, so this one, it might be helpful. It kind of depends on your calculator, but for my calculator that I've got, using two sets of brackets for this. So sine of -1 times, let's do open up a bracket, and then I'm just going to rewrite everything that was already there. So 20, and then another bracket, sine of 30 divided by 12, close bracket, and then close the second bracket. Now, for my calculator, if I put that in exactly as is with the 2 sets of brackets, it's going to come out to the correct answer. If you've got a different type of calculator to mine's a Casio graphics calculator. If you've got a scientific calculator, it might be a little bit different. So you've got to play around, and you'll see what my answer is in a second. Make sure your answer fits this with your specific calculator. So let's get an answer for this. I'll just get my calculator. So I've got the inverse of sine, so that would be shift sine, open bracket, 20, open another bracket, sine of 30 divided by 12, close bracket, close second bracket, equals 56.44. 56.44, and we were looking for that to be in degrees. Okay, so thing to check here is, one, make sure you can label that triangle first. Secondly, choosing the correct variation of the sine rule. If you didn't choose that variation right at the top, right up here, you could still get the answer. It would just mean a few more steps of working out. As long as everything is done mathematically correct, then it wouldn't matter. But to make it nice and easy, we're going to be using the one that I had up here next to that number 1 that I just drew. And the third important part of this would be to make sure you can use your calculator to get that answer that I've got as well.